Banana mug. Banana mug. What you think about that? What you think about this? Going in the banana mug. Whoa! He's crazy. He's insane. No, I'm just here to have a good time, boys. And by boys, I mean all of you. You are all my boys. No matter what you identify as. Cheers. Cheers. Very crisp. A lot of foam. Not going to lie. Do not pour your beer in a mug. Very high up. It's not the ideal beer pour. Well, it's Miller time. And it's Miller time because today feels like a very special episode. Okay? You know why? This is Monkey Movie Club, by the way. If you did not know, I am your host, Mr. Chimp Guy. I host the Monkey Movie Club here. Monkey Movie Club is a club where we watch movies, and here are the monkeys. We're the monkeys, the ones watching the movies. Every week we watch a new movie. There's a theme. All the Monkey Movie Club members submit the film that they want for that theme. We vote on which one we would like to watch for that week, and then boom, we watch it, and I talk about it here on the show, the Monkey Movie Club. If you watched our last episode, you saw that, well, first of all, thanks for watching the episode. Means a lot. I appreciate the view. But if you stuck around to the end, I would have told you the theme for the next week, which is this week, which is directed by women. Okay, this theme was given to us by one of our Monkey Movie Club members, Coco Chanel. Thank you, Coco Chanel, for the theme. I let all Monkey Movie Club members choose the theme the week of their birthday. And this is what Coco Chanel chose. I think it's a great theme. I think it's an important theme. As many things, film is a very male-dominated world, and it's important for us at the Monkey Movie Club to highlight these female voices. Because film really comes from your perspective of the world. You as a filmmaker, you are telling your stories. You are telling your perspective. And if you just have a bunch of dudes making movies, we are only getting dudes' perspectives. And I'm sorry, but dudes don't have the best perspective on things. You know how I know that? I'm a dude. I have dude friends, okay? We don't have the best perspective sometimes. So it's cool to watch some women make some film and talk about things that they've gone through. Show the world from their lens, literally, because cameras use lenses and you use cameras for movies. Sorry, I think this banana mug's got me a little riled up. But yeah, so the movie that got selected for directed by women was the film Buffaloed, directed by Miss Tanya Wexler. Maybe it's Miss. I think she might be married actually to a woman. So we're not only getting a woman's perspective from this film, we're getting a gay woman's perspective from this film, which is great. Another person's perspective that we don't always see in film. We don't a majority of filmmakers, I think, are heterosexual. So it's kind of cool to get multiple different, Inclusion is cool, okay? I want more gay people making movies. I want more women making movies. So Miss Tanya Wexler made Buffaloed, and that is the movie that we watched this week. We're going to talk about that. But if you know the club, if you know the Monkey Movie Club, you know that I'm not going to sit here and talk about one movie. I'm talking about 3 movies, okay? I'm talking about 3 movies all directed by women, because that's the theme. But not only am I talking about 3 movies directed by women, I'm talking about 3 movies directed by women starring ZOEY DEUTCH. I believe that's how you pronounce it. ZOEY DEUTCH is an actress. She is an American film actress. She's been acting since she was young. She was even in The Suite Life on Deck. I believe that's probably where I first saw her on screen, because I was a young one once, and I watched these Disney Channel shows, and I watched every episode of Suite Life of Zach and Cody and Suite Life on Deck. I watched them all, even the crossovers with the other shows. ZOEY DEUTCH has been a part of my life since I was young, okay? And I've always liked her as an actress. I think she's got an incredible charm to her. And what's interesting about these movies we're going to talk about is she kind of plays a bad person in 2 of these movies. So it's interesting to see this person that I've seen portrayed on film as like charming and bright to play these bad people. But yeah, the other films I'm going to talk about starring ZOEY DEUTCH, directed by women, is the 2022 Hulu original Not Okay, directed by Quinn Shepard, and the 2018 Netflix original romantic comedy Set It Up, directed by Claire Scanlon, I believe. So yeah, I'm excited to get into these. I know Buffaloed was the monkey movie of the week, but it might be the one I honestly talk about the least today, because it did not really affect me as much as these other 2 movies that I sought out and watched. All of these were first watches for me. But yeah, let's get into it. Before we do, if you're watching Monkey Movie Club, thanks for watching this video. Subscribe if you aren't. Click the notification bell. I post this every Thursday. Little notification will remind you, hey, it's 10 a.m. on a Thursday. I got to watch Monkey Movie Club. And like the video if you like it. If you don't, leave a scathing review. Dislike it and comment. Leave a comment. Tell me what you thought about Buffaloed or any of the other films if you've seen them, or if now you're going to see them. Let me know that you're going to. But yeah, I just appreciate all the support. Everybody has been so nice about the show, and I love doing this. So let's talk about some frickin' movies, guys. Let's get into it. So yes, first off, we've got our monkey movie of the week, Buffaloed. Let's talk a little bit about it. I'll give you a little synopsis. Off the top of my head, I watched this last week. Buffaloed is a movie about a young woman who it's telling the story of her life a bit, giving a little backstory about her in the beginning. And she's always been a hustler. She's always been trying to make some quiche because that's the way her dad was. She looked up a lot to her dad, who's not very present in the film. And he was always a hustler, and he put that grind set into her, okay? And that she's trying to make money any way she can. She's a young one, and she starts selling hot wings on the side of the street, like a lemonade stand. And here's the thing we should get into before we really talk about the movie. It is very Buffalo-centric, okay? I think the filmmaker is from Buffalo, and the movie is all about the city of Buffalo. There's like Buffalo. They talk about the Buffalo Bills all the time. For those that don't know, that's a football team. That's a sports team, the Buffalo Bills. And I know people in Buffalo are crazy about it. That's their thing. You know, some people got whole personalities about a dang football team. And this movie talks all about the Buffaloes. It talks all about buffalo wings. It kind of shows the accent. They've all got this accent. It's Midwestern kind of accent, kind of Chicago, kind of. Oh yeah, I'm from Buffalo. Yeah, I like hot wings and I like watching the Bills. So if you're not super aware of that world, then I don't know if you'll have that much of an appreciation for what the film is doing, portraying that. You know, like me, for instance. I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, okay, this is like, it doesn't turn me off from the movie. I'm like, yeah, but this aspect of the movie is not for me. You know, it's for the people of Buffalo. Because it's not trying to be like, I think, a super accurate representation of Buffalo people. It's kind of an exaggeration. Like at one point, there's a judge during a courtroom hearing, and he's got napkins on his gown, and he's eating buffalo wings in the middle of court. And it's like, he's like, oh yeah, I love buffalo wings down from that one place, the local bar, but I like this place's blue cheese. And it's like, yeah, it's being silly, it's being fun, it's kind of talking about this city and the locals, and burp, 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 burp. Isn't it cute? So I'm watching it, I'm like, I'm not from Buffalo, I'm not super in touch with that culture, but, I know this is probably funny and important to those that have lived as a part of that culture, or are aware of that culture, or know somebody that's a part of that culture. Anyway, I'm saying culture like it's a different country. It kind of seems like a different country at times. You watch the movie and you see the way these people act and the things they do. You're like, this is America? Like, it looks like a little place between Canada and America. It's like, it's an alien world. But anyway, yeah, this our main character, she's a hustler. She's trying to make money, and she gets herself in a bit of trouble because she starts doing some illegal stuff. She starts selling fake tickets to the Buffalo Bills game when she gets a little older, and she gets put in jail. She goes to jail for a while, and the American prison system doesn't do a great job of doing what it should, which is rehabilitate. So when she's in jail, she doesn't learn any lessons. She learns actually how to do the crime better. She talks with the other people in jail, and they're like, "Oh, hey, here's how you can do the crime better." And she's like, "Oh, cool. I'm gonna go out and do the crime better." She's in a lot. She gets accepted to some college. She's in a lot of debt. Her mom calls her in jail and is like, "Hey, your debt's really bad. They're even calling me at the house, And she gets out of jail, and she's back on her grind. She's got to hustle. She's got to make some money, pay off these debts, because she doesn't want her mom, played by the great Judy Greer. She doesn't want her mom worrying about the debt. She wants to take care of it. She wants to hustle. She wants to make money. That's all she's ever cared about, is making money. And the movie talks a little bit about about debt, just in general. Kind of talks about how it affects people in America specifically, and how debt can follow somebody for the rest of their life, and even after their life, when they're dead, debt getting passed down to relatives of theirs once they die. There's like a quote in the movie that's like, "Debt never dies," So the movie talks a little bit like that about debt, and it also talks about the main thing after she gets out of jail is about debt collectors, and it's kind of showing the world of debt collectors and that job in general as a profession. And she talks to one of the debt collectors that's like harassing her family. And if you don't know, debt collectors, I believe, like, this is the bare knowledge I have about it, is like credit card companies and stuff that have all this debt. Debt collectors are like, "Hey, that's $20,000 worth of debt. I'll pay you, $5,000 for it." And then they bring the debt to the people that owe the debt, and they're like, "Hey, I'll let you pay off this $20,000 debt for $7,000, and then they get a little $2,000 profit from buying the debt from the credit card companies, who just want to get rid of the debt. They don't want to have to deal with chasing somebody down for $20,000 worth of debt. To my knowledge, that's how like that kind of debt works and debt collectors work. And the movie talks about how it's kind of a sleazy business, and people harass people, and kind of bend some rules, and how there's not a lot of regulation federally about debt collecting and what debt collectors are and aren't allowed to do to receive that debt. Sometimes they're harassing like older people who may have dementia or something, and they're like coming back for the debt multiple times, which is super illegal. Like, harassing somebody for it may be illegal, but like profiting off of them and making them pay for their debt multiple times just because they have a mental disease, that sounds super illegal, you know? To me, at least, that sounds bad. But yeah. Anyway, our main character, ZOEY DEUTCH, she talks with this debt collector that's after her, and she kind of learns about what debt collecting is and how you can make a tasty chunk of change from getting you basically earn commission, you know, off the debt that you get paid off. They give you a little chunk of change for every debt that you get somebody to pay. And she's like, hey, this sounds like a great way for me to scheme and make money back to get rid of my debt. So she becomes a debt collector. She joins this sleazy group of guys. And yeah, that's the gist of the movie. Don't want to give it away. You can actually watch it for free on YouTube, free with ads, free in general if you have YouTube Premium. So yeah, I'll get a little more into the depths of the movie, but that's the general gist. And yeah, the movie, I wasn't crazy about it. I didn't hate it either. It was like a very middle of the road kind of movie for me because take it or leave it, honestly. It's a comedy. It's really trying to be a comedy. I didn't laugh a ton at some of the humor there. Our leading lady, ZOEY DEUTCH, is very over the top with some of her comedy and the accent that she's doing, and the costumers put her in like these ridiculous costumes to be like, look, she's so quirky and weird, and she doesn't do things the normal way. And yeah, it's very silly. I like very silly things. Like one of my favorite horror movies, if you can even call it that, is Army of Darkness, and that's as silly as they come horror wise. You know, you literally got skeleton puppets running around. And my problem with the silliness of this movie, Buffaloed, is that it's pretty tonally inconsistent with other moments that try to be a bit more serious, and the seriousness is kind of jarring of certain, the seriousness of certain scenes is kind of jarring when you watch them, because the comedy, the silly comedy, is like almost absurdism, like I mentioned earlier, the judge literally eating hot wings in the middle of a trial, and then one of the lawyers runs up to the bench and punches the judge in the face. Like, that's literally like absurdism, the way they're playing it, because they're playing that comedically. They're not playing that like a lawyer assaulted a judge. It's like, isn't this goofy? There's a ton of moments like that where it's just absurdist, insane. Like, there's the villain of the film is played by Jai Courtney. Jai Courtney, he was Boomerang in the more recent Suicide Squad films. He played Boomerang in both of those. That's really all I think I know him from. But he plays like the leader of this one debt collection agency. Like, he's the owner. He's this mustache twirling bad guy. And it is even absurd with its kind of conflict with this bad guy, because as soon as we see this guy, he's introduced to the movie, he's like literally punching his employees in the face. Like, and, I think the judge eating the hot wings, this dude literally punching his employees in the face, I think that kind of absurdism works fine altogether. And for the first half of the movie, I think it is a little tonally consistent, at least with its silly stuff. But the latter half of the movie tries to earn some serious emotional moments. And I am like, is this the same movie? This is not what I was watching 15 minutes ago, and they're doing like really intense handheld footage of like this woman and her son getting arrested, and it's like they're screaming and there's sirens and people are reading them their Miranda rights, and it's like they're treating it very serious, and it's shot very serious. And I was literally stunned whenever like that happened. I was like, what? And then there's a scene later where the main character talks with her mom, Judy Greer, in prison, and it's like an acting reel clip for ZOEY DEUTCH. She's like giving this monologue sitting across the table from her mother, just red in the eyes, tears streaming down her face. And I'm like, this movie did not earn this from me. Like, she had a very silly relationship with her family the whole first half of the movie, like literally wrestling with her brother in a bar, almost like somebody calling the cops on them, just kind of goofy, like. And now it's doing this, so I was just a little like, what? Those moments can work, but you've had such a silly fun time for 45 minutes, and now it's turned into like you're trying to earn these moments, and I don't think it does. For me, even the ending, without spoiling too much, is like trying to say something about debt and debt collections. Like literally, at the very end of the movie, there's like a title card. The film ends, and then there's like white text that comes up like you would see at the end of like a movie that's based on a true story, that's like, so and so is now serving time in so and so. But this text comes up and is like, millions of Americans still suffer from however many $1 billion in debt, which is more than blah blah blah. And I was like, what? Like, you're trying to. It was so out of place. It was like literally the end credits of The Big Short. And I was like, this is not, like, none of this fits together. It was like a puzzle where the pieces are just clashing and not going together well. And it was confusing. And maybe I'll rewatch it someday and try and analyze it, just now that I know what's going on, try and see what it's going for, I guess. But yeah, it was not that whole ending. The whole last half of the movie just was really confusing, considering how it sets up its characters and its plot. And anyway, but yeah, that's essentially what I thought of the film. Unfortunately, I don't have a ton more to say about it. I've kind of given you all my thoughts. There's not really. Doesn't feel like there's a lot for me to chew on, to think about. It ended, and I was just like, okay, that was a movie I watched, and just didn't get a lot from it, I guess. But that's okay. Not every movie has to be super heavy or have to have something super important that it's saying. I just wanted a little more from it. Wanted to walk away with something, and I don't feel like I did. If it was silly, goofy, fun time, the whole movie, silly, goofy, fun time. Okay, cool. I like silly, goofy, fun times. But yeah, then it just tries to change the game and be about something and say something that does not land, I think, at all, for me personally. Anyway, yeah, I guess I'm gonna move on. Like I said earlier, it's on YouTube for free if you want to watch it. Check it out. Tanya Wexler's not made a ton of stuff, so I mean, I might check out some of her other stuff in the future. But yeah, that's Buffaloed. Check it out. It's on YouTube. Like I said, it's on YouTube for free. So yeah, let me know what you thought about the movie. Talk to me in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's open up a dialogue, as they say. Now I am going to talk about the 2022 film Not Okay, directed by Quinn Shepard, who is now 28 years old. She made this movie when she was 26, 27. Yeah, I feel fine. That doesn't make me feel like an incredible disappointment. Sitting in this shed at 25 years old talking about these movies to no one. I'm fine. I don't feel like a piece of crap. No, but for real, congrats, Quinn. Quinn is an actress, writer, now director. She's directed, I think, like 4 movies or something. But yeah, a young buck making some films, and not okay is more than okay. Get it? Yeah, I enjoyed this movie. It's a Hulu original. And if you can't tell by the poster, it's got the little French flag colors right there. I'll tell you a little bit about the plot of the film. So ZOEY Deuttch, once again, is our leading lady, and she plays a writer for this like BuzzFeed-esque website. They kind of write these articles about, some of them it's like pop culture related and stuff like that. She's got influencers that work with her, and she doesn't have many friends at all, and she wants attention, and she's not getting any, and she's like obsessed with her phone because she does not have friends. The movie is very heavy on its themes about social media and kind of how that can isolate someone. And it makes you crave any kind of connection and approval through that medium because it's isolated you, and now that is your only form of dopamine and joy. So she has like 50 Instagram followers, which is crazy. 50 Instagram followers as like someone who's an adult now with a job. Unless you just got Instagram, you at least got people from high school that you no longer talk to following you and like pity liking your posts every once in a while. They don't have to like your posts, but they're following you at least. Depending on how many kids you went to school with, that's like hundreds, a couple hundred maybe. But maybe you're just terrible and really unlikable. She is not a good person. It kind of makes that clear very quickly in the film. She's like ignoring homeless people because she's got a crush on a boy. It's very blatant with showing that she's not a great person. She's like in an elevator with 2 gay coworkers of hers, and they're talking to each other, not to her, and she butts into their conversation. Hey, what are you guys doing? And one of them's like, we're going to our queer bowling league. And she goes, oh, do you have to be queer to be in the bowling league? And they're like, yeah, you can't be, yeah, you have to be queer to be in this bowling league. And she's like, well, she leans in and starts whispering, and she's like, well, I made out with a girl in college, and it's like, oh, like I saw it coming, but I was like, yeah, this is the right way to show her as just like a terrible, like, no, that's the worst thing to say in that situation besides, oh, I hate gay people. It's like, it's a very tone deaf thing to say to people that have had to struggle with being gay their entire existence, and you're just like, oh, well, I could be, she says like at the end of her thing, could be bi, so, and it's like, okay, girl, it's not the vibe. Like, yeah, you could be bi, but right now you're doing it so that you can have friends and play bowling. You are coming out per se for completely wrong reasons, because you want you want friends because you're so abysmal to speak to. Nobody wants to be your friend. But yeah, she is so desperate for attention that she lies and says that she is going on a writer's retreat to Paris because this boy she has a crush on that works at this BuzzFeed-esque business played by Dylan O'Brien. Dylan O'Brien is great in this movie. He doesn't have a lot to do per se, but for the little time he does have, I really enjoyed what he was doing. He plays like this kind of fuckboy influencer. He's got like a shaved head that's dyed bright blonde. He's got a fanny pack and baggy t-shirts, and I'll put up pictures of how he looks, but yeah, it's hilarious because he's also doing this kind of like black scent, trying to sound more interesting than he actually is, and someone even calls him out on it, and they're like, you're from Massachusetts, and he kind of breaks the accent to be like, okay, so what, and that's kind of funny. That's a funny little moment. But yeah, she's got this crush on Dylan O'Brien, and she sees he's like an influencer. He's super popular on Instagram. He's verified this was before verification meant nothing. And she sees that he travels a lot. And so she wants to seem more interesting, so she lies to him and says, yeah, well, I'm going to Paris for a writer's retreat. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. And she photoshops pictures of herself in Paris. And nobody gives a fuck, He does, like, follow her randomly after this encounter where she tells him that she's going to Paris. So after he follows her, she's like, oh, I got to post pictures of me in Paris. So she calls into work. She tells him she's going to Paris. She starts photoshopping pictures of her in Paris. And he starts liking them or whatever. And then something awful happens. And the bombings that happened in Paris happen while she's pretending to be in Paris. And she poses at one of the landmarks where there was a bombing. And people are freaking out for her. Like, her family starts reaching out, like crying, tears in their eyes as they're calling her on the phone asking if she's okay. And she, I think, is about to break the lie when she sees that this Dylan O'Brien character DM'd her and says something like, really hope you're okay. And so she immediately is like, I got to double down. I have to play for people's sympathy. That's the attention. It's getting me attention. I want to keep that attention. And I forgot to mention, the movie opens with her, like, crying, reading hate comments about everybody hates her because of this lie. So the movie immediately is like, yeah, she's got this big lie and people know about it and they all hate her. And then it cuts to like 2 months earlier. So we know that she's going to get caught in this lie and everybody's going to hate her. Like, everybody on the internet. Like, it becomes a huge scandal because after she decides to double down on this lie, she posts on her Instagram story like, guys, I'm safe. Don't worry about me. I am safe now. I'm away from the bombings. And she just gets a ton of attention for it. She goes to the airport and like sneaks in with the people leaving their Paris flight. And there's like tons of photographers. Her family's there waiting for her. They give her a hug. Her dad's crying, and a photographer captures a photo of her in her beret and her dad holding her crying. And that becomes like this huge photo, like on the New York Times or whatever. And so desperate for attention, she sees them post the photo on their Instagram. She comments and is like, this is me, exclamation, exclamation, and gets a ton of followers and attention for that. And she kind of creates her own social media career. Everybody at her work is feeling sympathy for her. She writes an article about her experience in the bombing, and that gets mega popular and makes her like an activist almost, because we are introduced to a character who is a young girl played by Mia Isaac. And Mia Isaac kicks ass in this movie. She is so good. Our main character goes, like, this is so depraved and awful. Like, she's committing to this lie so much. She goes to, like, a survivor support group. And there are people there who have, like, there's a guy there who survived the Ariana Grande concert bombing. And Mia Isaac, I forget her character's name, she survived a school shooting and is now essentially kind of like a David Hogg-esque activist, like public figure who has now used this trauma for advocacy and is like speaking out against gun violence and speaking at protests. And she's got like so many followers. And this girl, our main girl, Zoe, she doesn't want to be at this like support group. And then she's leaving the support group and she's like, I'm never coming back to this thing. She's hearing these people dump their trauma. And somebody asks our Mia character for a picture. And so Zoe is like, oh, what? Someone here is famous? I can get clout off of somebody in this survivor group? So she turns around and is like, I got to become best friends with this 17-year-old girl, and maybe she can skyrocket me to fame. And this Mia character posts the article that Zoe's character ends up writing about her experience with the bomb. And because of that repost, ZOEY DEUTCH's character becomes her own influencer. Like, it's so, everybody loves her article. She creates her own hashtag, I'm not okay, hence the name of the movie. And that's essentially the plot. I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, it's a Hulu original. Go see it on Hulu. Now I'll talk a little bit about why I liked the movie. I do think it has some great comedy in it. Specifically, some of the interactions with Dylan O'Brien, I think, are funny. Some of just the awful things that ZOEY DEUTCH's character is saying is kind of awkward funny. It got some genuine laughs out of me. But there are some moments, I guess, where it should have maybe taken itself a little more seriously, like considering it's dealing with such heavy things like survivors and of these kind of attacks, and like the character with the Ariana Grande bombing, he's like, they play him super silly because he's a grown man who's like an Ariana stan. And it's like, okay, like, it's just maybe a little too goofy for the shit that it's like talking about there. But all the stuff with Mia Isaac is more or less like, she is committed. Mia Isaac's character is committed the whole movie and has some great monologues, and it's just, and she hasn't done a ton of stuff. I looked her up. I guess she's still young, but man, keep your eye on her. She delivers this monologue that finishes the movie, and it is sick. She's awesome. It's like a spoken word thing that she's doing in front of people. But yeah, it's I think it talks about social media in like not really a cringe way. Like, it's pretty accurate with some of the stuff it's portraying, and like influencer culture. It's like so interesting to kind of see some of the instances that like Dylan O'Brien's character's in. Like, they go to these parties just because they're influencers, and there's like just grotesque amounts of money being put into these things for like the stupidest products. Like, they go to this party and it's like so expensive. There's tons of gift bags, and they're literally like, take as many as you want. Who cares? And it's like for this UV light mouth guard that you put in your mouth to make your teeth brighter or some shit. And it's just all these young influencers on Snapchat taking pictures with everybody and just fucking around. And it's just interesting. It's interesting to see, because I've seen stuff like that's real. Like, those kind of parties and stuff exist, and influencers gaining like this. I don't know. It's cool to see represented accurately. The fuck do I know if it's accurate? Whatever. It's just cool to see that new genre of celebrity being presented in film, and it kind of treats it as absurd, because it kind of is. Like, becoming popular on the internet for like being attractive and posting pictures of yourself now leads you to just this like absurd amount of fame and money. It's like so little effort. I don't know. It's interesting. It's something I haven't seen a lot. I guess the last thing I kind of want to say is that go see the movie. I put timestamps. You can skip ahead to set it up if you want. But the last thing I want to say is that at the end of the movie, everybody finds out the lie. Of course, it tells you that in the beginning. And our main character is trying to, I guess, get her life back. Like, she has ruined her life by doing this. Everybody knows her name. She's on the cover of like Time magazine as like the worst person in the world. She's trying to learn how to be a normal person after the world of social media, after people now recognize her in the street, and now they all know her as this awful human being who did this awful thing. The movie's split into parts. Like, a screen will come up that says part 1, part 2, part 3. And the last part is called, like, I'm Not Getting a Redemption Arc. And so immediately it shows that title card, and I'm like, okay. Like, I'm interested in seeing that. I'm interested to see how we end this movie now. You're telling me she's not getting a redemption arc. Let's see. And she's talking to somebody, and they're like, have you even apologized to Rowan? I just remembered the name. Rowan, which is Mia's character. Have you even apologized to her? And I don't think she had. So she writes out in her notes app an apology. And she goes to one of Rowan's like talent show performances. It's like a art showcase that she does for her school. And Rowan comes up to do her piece, and it's a spoken word about the kind of trauma that she has now dealt with ZOEY DEUTCH's character and what she put her through, lying to her and using her fame that she has got through advocacy to kind of establish her own brand and like try to be an advocate with Rowan. And Zoe's character is sitting there listening to it, like growing tears in her eyes. And ultimately, Zoe gets up and just leaves. Decides, I interpreted it as her deciding not to give this apology that she had written down and like created for this moment. And for me, I liked that. I liked that ending because in Rowan's monologue, it sounds like Rowan has really thought about her feelings of this trauma, and she has dealt with it on her own, and the hurt that she has now experienced from this pretty serious friendship that she had gained now being nothing, being just out of her life completely, and knowing that it was all built on a lie. And I took it more as like that apology wasn't for Rowan, that apology was for Zoe's character. She wrote out this apology because it would make her feel better, I think, to give Rowan this apology. Rowan seems to have already dealt with it and articulated it pretty succinctly into a spoken word piece. And what good is stopping her after this and giving this apology to like get it off your chest? I think this is like the one thing she really does in the movie that isn't selfish, which is just leave, let her be, let her get over you, and I've dealt with the loss of a friendship in my life, and there's so much you want to say, especially like if it ends on bad terms. There's a lot you want to say, and some of it is for you. You want to make certain things clear and apologize for certain things. And it's because you want to absolve yourself of the guilt that you are holding. And it's more selfless to kind of just shut the fuck up sometimes. Give those people their space and leave it be. Like, I think if you are in the wrong for something in a relationship or friendship that is ending, eventually I think an apology is probably deserved. But genuinely apologize. Don't say things because you want to be free of that guilt. You want them to say it's okay. You want them to forgive you for that, because it's hard to forgive. It's hard to forgive. It's hard to forget. And that in itself is kind of a burden you're putting onto that person. Like, if they don't feel comfortable completely forgiving you for something, then that's a burden you're putting onto them, where, especially if you do it face to face, like, you're putting them on the spot. You're putting them in the situation where they might not actually want to forgive you. I don't know. I was emotionally impacted by the film, and seeing that kind of final moment of her walking out while she's letting Rowan deliver this beautiful, thought out spoken word of their relationship, I thought was powerful. But yeah, go see it for yourself. Let me know what you think. It's pretty good. Pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it maybe isn't doing the best job keeping the silly stuff silly and the serious stuff serious. I think they kind of intertwine at times, but it did not bother me enough to dislike the movie. I still thought it was pretty good regarding social media fame, that kind of craving that it gives younger people for attention. Like, when that becomes your source of dopamine and serotonin, and you just have this desire to get attention on there. Like, and I mean, she kind of learns in the movie that these human friendships and experiences that she's gaining from this support group means more than anything she had received online. And she also kind of learns the hard way that online fame also comes with online hatred. Like, she tries to shrug it off like, oh, I can deal with one troll every once in a while, but like, there are some just really hateful, horrible people on the internet, and people are willing to say anything anonymously behind a screen. But the connections you make in person with people are so much more meaningful and deep than anything you see on a screen, any amount of likes, any amount of comments. And she learns that, but she learns that way too late in her life and in her lie. So, moving on. That one, I guess, that was kind of a downer. Sorry about that. Got a little down in the dumps there, but let's bring it up a notch, huh? We're going to be talking about the oldest film on this list, from 2018. From 2018, the Netflix original film Set It Up. It is a romantic comedy directed by Claire Scanlon. Claire has directed a lot of TV. I did a little research on her. She directed a lot of TV. She, I think, wrote a lot of TV too. But she started directing episodes of The Office in 2013, I think. And after she did that, she was like, oh, I want to direct full time. So she's done some other TV stuff. Like, I have written here, she did some Kimmy Schmidt, I believe. And she even directed the Kimmy Schmidt special on Netflix, like her versus the John Hamm character. She directed that whole special. And yeah, Set It Up, romantic comedy. It's pretty good. I haven't seen a pretty good romantic comedy in a while, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. I was just looking for, films starring ZOEY DEUTCH, directed by women, and this was like the third most popular movie on Letterboxd that Zoe had been in. But yeah, it's a romantic comedy starring her, our queen, Zoe, and Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell, he was in Top Gun Maverick, I believe. I have not seen a ton of stuff with him, I don't think. He's got a very white guy face, so I think he kind of maybe blends into his secondary roles with every other white guy. But yeah, they are the two leads in this movie that inevitably fall in love because it's a romantic comedy with both of their faces on it. It's also got Pete Davidson. He's like in 3 scenes. Don't worry. He doesn't ruin the movie. Titus Burgess. He is in Kimmy Schmidt. I'm sure the director knew him and was like, I want to put him in this. He's barely in it too, but he's fun. I just wrote his name down because I like him. I like his stuff, and he's funny in this. This movie's funny. It got some laughs out of me. I enjoyed it. I just watched it too, so I could record this. But yeah, it's a funny little romantic movie, hence the name of the genre, romantic comedy. I'll tell you a little bit about the movie. Set It Up is about... Man, I am not memorizing any of Zoe's character names, but ZOEY DEUTCH and Glenn Powell play these characters. They're both assistants to like high level executives in different companies, and Glenn Powell's boss is like a investor. They mention like the Shark Tank, like he's invested in Shark Tank or something. I don't know. They talk about Mark Cuban, but he's got a lot of money and he does stuff. ZOEY Deutsch's boss, they elaborate a little more on her, played by the great Lucy Liu. Lucy Liu is a sports journalist. She has like uncovered some sports scandals, and she interviews coaches and players, and she's got a whole team of writers. And ZOEY Deutsch is her assistant, and she really wants to be a writer. And she's been her assistant for so long, just hoping that one day she'll get on Lucy Liu's good side and get to write an article for her sports paper. And this movie starts off kind of with a montage of bosses just being awful to their assistants, because that's what this movie's about. It's about that kind of culture of bosses just being incredibly horrible, authoritarian, nightmares to deal with. They're like forcing them to do things like Glenn's boss forces him to like do his kid's science fair project, and he's just the bosses are never happy with anything. They're making them stay at the office past midnight with them. They're just generally being awful, like being condescending, talking down to them. Like at one point, Glenn's boss isn't even letting him into the lobby of like a hotel or something. He's making him wait outside for him. But yeah, Glenn Powell's character really wants a promotion. He wants the big promotion, so he's toughing it out as this assistant, and in the hopes that he'll get on his good side and get that promotion. But here's the kicker. Both of these offices are in the same building. Glenn and Zoe run into each other, and they kind of talk about their horrible bosses, and they decide to set them up because Zoe's boss is a woman, Glenn's boss is a man, and they're both single. Glenn's boss went through a divorce recently. They're like, let's set them up. Hence the name Set It Up. They're kind of parent trapping them together, making them like do their own meet cutes by hiring Titus Burgess. He's like the maintenance guy to like stop the elevator with both of them in it. It's pretty predictable, but it's cute. It's funny. The performances are good. I know Glenn Powell was recently in the news a few months ago for his whole scandal with Sydney Sweeney, who of Euphoria fame, that he recently did a rom-com with. And after the rom-com was filmed, or I guess during it being filmed, Glenn and his girlfriend broke up, and there was a lot of like behind the sets photos of them being, very physical with each other. And then there was like a press tour they did, and there was a viral video of like him holding Sydney and dipping her, that went viral, and people are like, oh, they fucking, and what's even crazier is that like Glenn's girlfriend flew to Australia while they were filming the rom-com with Sydney Sweeney, and she left, and it's rumored that was them breaking up. Like, she flew there like, what's going on? I'm seeing these photos of you two, like, what's going on? And then they broke up. But Sydney, oddly enough, was engaged, and I think still is engaged, maybe married by now, but yeah, they're fine after the whole debacle. It was just Glenn and his girlfriend. Maybe it's completely unrelated. It's just like a scandal that I saw going around. They were being very close, and damn him, but he is charming. I'm sorry. Glenn Powell is charming. He's charming in the movie. He's charismatic. And in the interviews where people are like, look at him, he's so close with Sydney, he's being weird, blah, blah, blah. I was like, he's pretty charming in this too. Like, if she did fall in love with him or, at least sleep with him, I mean, it's because he's charming. He's handsome, he's charming, he's got a good body. Like, I get it, girl, but also don't cheat on your significant others. But yeah, that's all alleged anyway. He's a charming dude. He's good in this movie. He's funny in this movie. He's even got some physical comedy in this movie where I'm like, man, this is funny. You're being funny, dude. But yeah, Pete Davidson is Glenn Powell's roommate. Pete Davidson's playing a gay dude, and they don't make a big deal out of it. He's just like, yeah, I'm gay. And him and ZOEY Deutsch kind of become friends, but Pete Davidson's barely in the movie. He's just kind of there to be like, hey, I'm his roommate. I'm kind of funny, and I'm gay. And it's like, thank you, Pete. Thanks for the contribution there to the film. Dude, fucking Netflix. They change the thumbnails of the movies all the time. They changed the thumbnail to set it up to Pete Davidson's face. And I know I've heard the thing about them catering thumbnails to the viewer. Like, if you like Pete Davidson stuff, they'll put Pete's face. If you like ZOEY Deutsch stuff, they'll put Zoe on it. Based on your watches, they'll change the poster for you. I don't watch Pete Davidson stuff. Do I just watch too much comedy stuff? Do I watch too much stuff with dudes in it that they're like, yeah, put Pete Davidson's face on here? He's barely in the movie. He's in like 3 scenes. His face is on the poster? Nobody else on the poster but Pete Davidson? What? Anyway. But yeah, they set up their bosses. They want them to fall in love in the hopes that their life at their job will get easier. And it kind of works, and then, because it's a movie, there's got to be the moment where there's the emotional low, and then they pick back up with the rise. But funny enough, Glenn Powell's character is in a relationship in this movie for like the first hour 15 minutes. It's an hour 45. So for an hour 15 minutes, Glenn Powell is dating like this actress supermodel, and he's just some quirked up white boy, and he's super insecure in his relationship. She's like flirting with muscular male models at pool parties. Yeah, and his roommate Pete Davidson points out that their relationship is very surface level, and they don't really know each other that well. And Glenn Powell's whole arc is that he's got to figure it out, and then he also figures out he's in love with ZOEY Deutsch. ZOEY Deutsch isn't really in a relationship. She's like Tinder dating, and she meets this like guy on Tinder that's going really well, and then he like ghosts her. And then, yeah, but everything comes together in the end for our 2 main characters. They've got great chemistry in the movie, honestly. They really work together as like these friends that are plotting this thing and that eventually fall in love. And they fall in love because they just spend a lot of time with each other and get to know each other, and everything with Glenn Powell and his girlfriend is very sexual. Like, they're sexting each other all the time. He's always talking about how hot she is and how attractive he is to her. And that's when Pete Davidson's going to be like, what do you know about her? What's her favorite food? Like, where is she from? You know, you don't know anything about her. You just like to fuck her. And yeah, when he like actually spends time with Zoe and gets to know her, he's like, oh, this is a fun person. She's quirky. She's fun. She's cute. I'm gonna pursue her. And they kind of, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. Watch it on Netflix. I guess there's not like a ton to spoil, but yeah, that's what I think about the movie. I will say there are two primate references in this movie, so it is by default the best movie this week for Monkey Movie Club. Lucy Liu says something about Coco the gorilla. She's talking about how gentle he was as a lover, but she could feel the strength behind his touch, kind of like when Coco would pet the kitten. And then Glenn Powell is about to climb on the fire escape with a pizza in his hand, and he says, I'm going to hold the pizza in one hand, I'm going to climb with the other hand, like a monkey. And I was like, well, if you were really a monkey, dude, you would like use your feet while you climbed with your top hand. I don't know, or use your feet to climb. But no, it was cool. I got two primate references in that movie. As far as I know, Buffaloed and Not Okay, 0 primate references in that movie. So thumbs down to both of those. No, I mean, pretty all right movies all around. But yeah, that's the movies for the week, guys. A romantic comedy, a movie about Paris bombings, and Buffaloed, about tax evasion or whatever, debt. Something I wanted to say about Not Okay that I thought was interesting. She's got these like 2 stripes of blonde in the front of her hair, and that is the same hairstyle from that Black Mirror episode that came out recently, Joan is Awful, in which the main character is this awful person who's like cheating on her husband with her old boyfriend. She's like being really rude to somebody at work. She's just like a terrible person. And I was like, they've both got the blonde stripes. Is that just what awful people have in their hair? I guess so. Yeah, I thought that was funny. That was a little detail I forgot to mention about Not Okay. Those are the movies. I'll tell you a little bit more about Zoe, our queen of the week. She is the daughter of Leah Thompson, which Leah Thompson is an actress who's been in a ton of stuff. She was the mom in the Back to the Future trilogy, Marty McFly's mom. Like, that's crazy. So Zoe, Nepo Baby of the Week. Let's give it up to our Nepo Baby. We love Nepo Babies. I wish there were more Nepo Babies, because then we would all work harder. The Nepo Babies would get all the jobs and we would have to work harder to do whatever we want. We need Nepo Babies in every industry. No, I joke. But yeah, funny enough, her mom, Leah Thompson, directed a movie, The Year of Spectacular Men, in which Leah Thompson played ZOEY DEUTCH's mom in the movie, and her other daughter played Zoe's sister. So it was a little family movie that I thought that was cute. Zoe also won a Teen Choice Award for her role in the film Vampire Academy, which I almost watched for this, but it was not directed by a woman. So I wanted to keep the 3 films by woman, 3 films starring Zoe. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about next week. It is October. So you know what that means. It is time for Monkey Spooky Club. Ooh. It is spooky time. The rest of the movies for October are going to be spooky themed. And our theme for next week is black and white horror. Black and white horror. I thought, let's get back to horror's roots a bit and get some black and white horror. I did not require it to be an old movie. I just said it has to be entirely in black and white. And the movie that was selected for the week was Young Frankenstein. I got my little VHS here. Young Frankenstein, the Mel Brooks picture. I'm excited to watch this. I was watching it one day on my VHS player while I was cleaning, and I finished cleaning before the movie finished, so I've never finished this movie. But yeah, it's not really horror per se, but I allowed it when it was submitted. It's spooky. It's got the spooky vibes. It's got the black and white. It's got Frankenstein. So yeah, I was like, sure, let's do it. And then boom, it won in a runoff election. So I'm excited to watch it. I'm probably going to watch some other black and white horror movies. Don't know if you saw my little book here, but it's a little hint at what I might watch. Just flashed it to you on the camera. It's a little hint at something else I might watch for next week. But yeah, I might be focusing on some monstrously good movies next week. Okay, that's enough. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry if you didn't like this episode because it was about women. If you didn't like this episode, you're a misogynist. Sorry. No, I kid. But yeah, thanks for coming by. If you liked it, give us a like, subscribe, all that jazz. Come back next week, every Thursday, 10 a.m., new Monkey Movie Club video. I'm excited to talk about some horror. I'm excited to talk about some monsters. I'm excited for the rest of the month of October, dude, to talk about some scary movies. So, as always, I'm Chimp Guy, and thanks for watching.